So I have right here today two different light meters. On the right I have the Sekonic L208, and on the left I have the newer and much more obscure V-201x, I believe is what it's called. It doesn't really have a proper name. These are made in China. They're pretty easy to find online. But I wanted to compare the two and get an idea for accuracy. As you can see just by looking at them at a glance, the Sekonic is a lot larger. It's almost twice as big. It's made pretty much all out of this plastic, translucent on top, black on the bottom. Feels a little bit cheap. I did have the little lanyard break off a while ago, but all in all, it holds together pretty well. It's very stable on the hot shoe. This Chinese-made one here, the V201, is made out of metal. It has a body that I believe is aluminum. It has a little screen on top. It isn't quite as stable on the shoe mount. It jiggles around a little bit, but it holds on pretty well. It is, it's hard to say. It wouldn't knock off too easily, but it isn't the most stable thing. Whereas if we compare Sekonic, I'm going to dig it out of my pocket really quick. It does seem a little bit more stable. It jiggles a little bit, but it is a bit more stable. The downside with it is it hangs over the front a lot. And you can see here on my Nikon S3, it hangs out almost as far as the lens. So that could be a bit of an issue if you want to shoot a really compact setup. But I'm going to go ahead and do a quick test and compare the two and their actual metering. So I've got both of them set to ISO 400, or ASA if you shoot film. So let's see. Sekonic, you just do that. Meter by pushing the button over here, and then you'll line up the needles. So we'll see, let's go 125th of a second gives us dead in between f5.6 and f8. So let's see what this one does. So with the little V201, you flip the switch to turn it on. You can see the screen, it's not coming out great on the camera, of course. It's doing that kind of skipping thing. You push this little button on the side, just push it straight down to meter. And let's see. For some reason, okay. It looks like it's, yeah. It did something weird there for a second, but it's at f8, 125th of a second. You can see again it's at ISO 400. So it's pretty comparable to the Sekonic over here. I don't know for sure which one's more accurate. I've used both of them with film and developed it. I've had the Sekonic for a lot longer, so I've probably developed, I don't even know how many, 50 rolls or so off of that, where I've only developed maybe 2 off of this one. And I found them both to be pretty accurate. I don't think either one of them is perfect, but they're not that bad. One big advantage you do seem to have is that with the Sekonic, when you push the button, it just meters once and that's it. So if you have a complex lighting situation, you might have to move it around a little bit and re-meter. Whereas with this Chinese-made one, you can see every time I move, it automatically changes the shutter speed a little bit. And that's one thing it does. It will go to sleep. So you can either turn it off and turn it back on, or you can just push this little side button and it wakes right back up. But you can see it kind of tracks the actual exposure there more actively for, I think it's about 30 seconds or so before it actually goes to sleep. There are a few other differences. So this one actually has some sort of built-in lithium-ion battery, and you can see it has a little charger there. I got this and it was fully charged, and I've been using it for like 3 weeks, and it is still fully charged. So it seems like it lasts a long time, but I've yet to actually recharge it, so I don't want to speak too much on that. Whereas the Sekonic has a sort of a built-in battery on the bottom that is more like a large watch battery. I think it's actually the same type you put in the little remote dongles for your car. The Sekonic does have one advantage in that it is not only a spot meter, but you can flip that over and it'll act as an incidental light meter. Price-wise, I think when I bought the Sekonic, which was a few years ago, I paid about $210, and they've come down since then. I think right now they're around 180-ish. For this one, the V201, I paid, I think it was about 70 bucks. So there's a pretty big price difference. You know, the question is which one's better, which one would I suggest buying? It's kind of hard to say, and strangely enough, I think a lot of it comes down to the aesthetics. The Sekonic is pretty well built and it's accurate, but like I said, if you look at it, this is a Nikon S3 with its 50mm lens. It looks a bit silly on it. It's so big and it's so plasticky. It looks kind of cheap. I've had people see it before and think it was a flash, and I can, you know, at the right angle, I can kind of understand that. But if we take that off and we put the V201 on, I think it just looks a lot better. It's got that square look. It's got the little screws that are kind of visible on the front, so it really matches the aesthetic of the Nikon there. I think it would look just as good on like a Leica M2 or M3. you know, I don't have too many complaints about it. My one big complaint, I'm over here in the shade, let me take it into the sun, is that when you take it into the sun, as you can kind of imagine with that little LED screen on top, or LCD screen, it's a little bit harder to see when you get out in the sun. And you can see that the metal reflects a little bit. So let me prime it and turn it on. Exciting review, huh? But right now it is on, and you can kind of see it, but you'll also see there are some reflections, and it can be pretty hard to read in direct sunlight. Like right here, to the naked eye, I can just barely see it, but on camera, it doesn't look like it's coming on at all. I think I can see just a tiny bit, but it is pretty hard to see. If I move it into my shadow, though, I can see it very clearly, and on camera, you can kind of see it. It's still clipping really bad, but you kind of get the idea. So that is one major disadvantage I found with this light meter compared to a lot of other ones out there. But which one's better? It's really hard to say. I think a lot of it just comes down to personal preference. They're both very usable. They both seem to be very accurate. They both seem pretty durable. I did have some issues, like I've said. This one, it does seem like it just doesn't sit perfectly on the hot shoe, and you have this little mount on the bottom. It is a little plasticky, and if you're not careful, you could potentially break that, I fear. Let's get it back on there. Okay. And if you compare that to the Sekonic meter, it's a little bit more solidly built, but at the same time, it's just plastic. It's all plastic. And like I said, there was a lanyard sort of loop, I guess, right there, and that broke off a couple of weeks after getting the camera. That was almost completely useless. So build quality wise, I would say they're actually pretty similar. Usability, it kind of depends. If you really need the incidental light meter, yeah, the Sekonic's is gonna win. If you like the manual kind of feel, turning the little knob, the Sekonic will probably win. But for a lot of people, I just think the smaller size, the sleeker look, and the significantly lower cost of the V-201 will probably be preferential. You can get the V-201, they technically sell them off of Alibaba and AliExpress. The problem I found there is that a lot of times the sellers don't want to use standard American payment systems. They want to use all those strange Chinese ones that I don't have, so that could be an issue. You can also buy them off eBay, but the prices go up. They usually run about $70 to $80 on eBay. I've seen some are a little cheaper. There's a plastic version of this you can get for around $50-ish. The only problem is when you buy off eBay, they're going to charge you that price, plus they're usually going to charge several dollars shipping and handling. It's still pretty good, though. You could get one of these delivered to your house for well under $100, so it's not too bad. And again, I really love the way it looks on my Nikon. Look at that. It's like they're made for each other. That's pretty much all I've got to say about these light meters. I might come back a little bit later and update with some more stuff, but I think that's a pretty good summation of these two light meters and which one I prefer, this one. And yeah, hope you enjoy that.